You have failed. Maybe recently, maybe spectacularly, maybe in a way that makes you question everything you thought you knew about yourself. The business that collapsed, the exam you did not pass, the relationship you could not save, the promise you made to yourself that you broke again and again until you stopped making promises altogether. And now you are sitting in the wreckage wondering what went wrong, wondering if you are simply not good enough, wondering if the people who doubted you were right all along. The Stoics would tell you something that sounds almost absurd in this moment of pain. They would tell you that this failure, this very thing that feels like it is destroying you, is one of the most valuable things that has ever happened to you. Not because suffering is noble, but because failure is the only teacher brutal enough to show you what you actually need to learn. Marcus Aurelius wrote, quote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." End quote. Read that again. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is not motivational fluff. This is a complete reorientation of how you understand obstacles. The Stoics did not believe that failure was something to be avoided at all costs. They believed it was something to be used, transformed, converted into fuel. Seneca spent years in exile on the island of Corsica, stripped of his wealth, his status, his comfort. By any conventional measure, his life was a failure at that point. And yet it was during this exile that he wrote some of the most profound philosophical works in human history. The obstacle did not destroy him, it revealed him. Epictetus was born a slave. His leg was broken by his master. He had every reason to consider himself a failure by the standards of his society. Instead, he built a philosophy that has guided emperors, generals, and ordinary people through their darkest hours for 2,000 years. His failure was the foundation of everything that followed. The reason failure feels so devastating is not the failure itself. It is what you believe failure means about you. You have been taught, since before you could think critically, that failure equals inadequacy, that if you fail, you are a failure, that your worth as a human being is determined by your results. Marcus Aurelius rejected this completely. He wrote, quote, "Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears." End quote. The injury is not the failure. The injury is the story you tell yourself about the failure. I was not good enough. I will never succeed. Everyone can see that I am a fraud. Seneca said, quote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." End quote. The fear of failure makes you timid. It makes you play small. It makes you choose the safe path, the guaranteed outcome, the life where nothing is risked, and therefore nothing is gained. The Stoics understood that the fear of failure is far more destructive than failure itself. Failure teaches, fear only paralyzes. There is a story about Marcus Aurelius that reveals everything about how the Stoics approached setbacks. When the Antonine Plague swept through the Roman Empire, killing millions, Marcus did not retreat. He did not blame the gods. He did not ask why this was happening to him. He went to the front lines. He sold palace furniture to fund the army. He made decisions in conditions of impossible uncertainty and accepted that many of those decisions would be wrong. He wrote in his journal, quote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, insofar as it stands ready against the accidental and the unforeseen, and is not apt to fall." End quote. Life is not a choreographed performance where everything goes according to plan. Life is a wrestling match. You will be thrown, you will hit the ground. The question is not whether you will fall. The question is what you do when you are on the ground. The Stoic answer is simple. You get up, you assess what happened, you adjust, and you step back into the arena. Not because you are guaranteed to win, but because the arena is where life happens. Seneca wrote, quote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." End quote. This is not a metaphor. This is a literal description of how growth works. Your muscles do not get stronger from rest. They get stronger from being torn apart and rebuilt. Your mind works the same way. Every failure contains information. Every setback reveals a weakness you did not know you had, a skill you have not yet developed, an assumption that was wrong, a strategy that needs to change. The question is whether you are willing to look at that information honestly, or whether you would rather hide from it. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every evening. He reviewed his day. Where did he fall short? What could he have done differently? What did he learn? He did this not out of self-punishment, but out of a genuine desire to become better. He treated his failures the way a scientist treats experimental results. Not as verdicts, but as data. This is the critical distinction. Failure is not a verdict on your character. It is data about your approach. Change the approach, and you change the outcome. Perhaps the most difficult part of failure is finding the courage to try again. After you have been hurt, after you have been humiliated, after you have proven to yourself and the world that you can fail, going back for more requires a specific kind of bravery that the Stoics understood deeply. Seneca wrote, quote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage," end quote. After a devastating failure, simply continuing to exist and to try is the most courageous thing you can do, not because you are certain of success, but because you refuse to let fear define the boundaries of your life. Epictetus taught that the only true failure is abandoning your principles. He said, quote, "No man is free who is not master of himself," end quote. You master yourself, not by never falling, but by choosing to get up every time you do. Freedom is not the absence of failure, it is the refusal to be owned by it. The person who has never failed has never attempted anything worth doing. The person who has failed and given up has surrendered to fear. The person who has failed and continues forward with clear eyes and a steady heart, that is the person the Stoics would call wise. Marcus Aurelius died knowing that his empire would not last. Seneca was ordered to take his own life by the emperor he had served. Epictetus lived in poverty with a broken body. By many measures, these men failed, and yet their words have outlasted empires. Their ideas have survived where armies have fallen. Their failures became the soil from which their greatest contributions grew. You are going to fail again. This is not pessimism. This is reality. You will make mistakes. You will fall short. You will disappoint yourself and others. The question is not how to avoid failure. The question is how to use it. Marcus Aurelius wrote his final piece of wisdom on this subject. Quote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." End quote. Every morning after a failure is a morning you have been given another chance, not a guarantee of success, but a chance. And that is all you have ever needed. Fail forward, fail wisely, fail with the knowledge that every defeat carries a lesson, every setback contains a seed, and every ending is the beginning of something you cannot yet see. Get up and begin again.